Fabiola stood to her full height, stretched out her arms, and called for the next body. Again, Brosset and Michel descended to the grave, but found it impossible to separate the two remaining bodies without damaging the skeletons. As they tried, one of the skulls lolled to one side at a bizarre angle. Michel and Brosset exchanged worried glances, as if asking what they might have done wrong. The mayor wrapped the plank in some new plastic sheeting and lowered it down. Michel stood in the grave to ensure that the skeletons did not fall off as the mayor and Brosset lifted out the plank and then carried it to the table. "I'm afraid that when we tried to separate them, the skull of one seemed to twist and roll to one side," said Brosset. "I'm sorry." "I'm sure you did your best," Fabiola replied. "The skeleton seemed entwined when I looked." She waved the two abashed men away and turned to her work, speaking into a microphone. Two female skeletons, no trace of any clothing, and well preserved, with no obvious sign of frontal injury to the bones, although each shows the skull turned at an unusual angle, possibly signalling a broken neck. There are traces of blonde hair on one, darker but not black hair on the other. The female with blonde hair is 1.60 meters in height, 38 centimeters wide at the shoulder. The female with dark hair is 1.64 meters in height and 40 centimeters at the shoulder. From the evidence of epiphysis on the long bones and collarbones, they were not yet mature adults. I estimate each to have been between 16 and 20 years of age. There is no evidence of parturition scarring, so neither one had given birth. There are no visibly broken bones, but possible signs of unusual leverage on the arms and shoulders. Turning the bodies, cause of death becomes apparent. Each female shows signs of the neck being severely twisted, which suggests deliberate and violent action. She paused, swallowed hard, and closed her eyes for a moment before continuing. My tentative initial conclusion is that each of these women died as a result of a broken neck, cause unknown. She turned off the microphone and placed a hand on the skull that rolled to one side. Then she stood silently for a long moment before turning to face Bruno and the other men with cold fury in her eyes. "I am not in the least religious, monsieur, but I think it would be fitting to ask Father Santu to come and say a few words over the bodies of these two women who died so young. I don't know who they were or where they came from, and I cannot say for sure why and how they died, but the fact that they were naked and their necks deliberately broken provokes the inevitable assumption that they were raped and murdered, like so many women in so many wars in so much of our human history." She pulled off her gloves and placed them gently over the holes in the twisted skulls where there had once been eyes.